The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful edition of the Sentinel Mindset. We have a very special guest today. We have Constable Jarrod Singh from the Durham Regional Police Service.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome, Jarrod.
Thank you for having me.
How do we know Jarrod? Well, I was just randomly searching Instagram in our profile, and I came across someone that kind of liked the post that you put up, and I'm like, Jarrod's a police officer for Durham. I'm from Durham. And I started to go a little bit deep into your posts, and I'm like, man, one thing that I saw as a reoccurring theme was that you really have a heart for the youth. You have a heart for community. And what I loved about that, Jarrod, and we kind of really briefly spoke outside, is that a lot of people in any profession, I mean, you come in as a lawyer, you come in as a doctor, you come in as security, you come in as a police officer. You can look at it as just that, just the job, or you can make the job into whatever you want it to be. And what I'm seeing that you're doing is, we all know that the mandate of the police is to serve the community, to serve the public, to be there as a beacon of hope, to do all these things. But we also know that sometimes, a lot of times, people can just get into just what the job is, meaning as in the most basics, and the heart kind of disappears a little bit because it just becomes a job. What I see that you're doing in your social media with the youth, with basically the public, with the community, is inspiring, man. And that's been the whole theme of the show, is to find people that have that mindset to connect. And that's not to say anything wrong against the person who's not doing that, but you're standing above the rest in the sense of like the mindset of really truly connecting. And I think that's something that really should be recognized.
Yeah, that's a great intro.
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
appreciate
Right?
that. That was a really good intro.
Yeah, this is like your hype man right now.
Yeah,
you should when you go to schools and stuff, you need Constantine with you.
Yeah.
Can I bring you to the schools?
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't that good?
Wow, damn.
Yeah, take that, man, and just run with that.
So, Jarrod, man, thanks, and thank you for coming down today, man. So, one of the things that we found out, Jarrod, is that in your career as police constable, you've been with them for 7 years now.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay, and then you're also right now. And again, I love the story, and you're going to definitely share it. You're basically a liaison right now.
Yes.
Which is something. Is this a new initiative right now for like? Do every police agencies do these liaisons? And kind of describe that a little bit.
So I know some other services kind of kibosh that whole school resource officer liaison position. Some services decided to keep it. So in Durham Regional Police, where I work, they've decided to keep it, and it's been a successful role. It's a role where we're able to connect with the kids on a different level. It's a role where we're able to make an impact inside the schools and sometimes outside the schools too, because what happens is when I go into these schools, these kids recognize me, and when they see me, they recognize me. Sometimes from Instagram too, actually, because of my following, right? Yeah. So like, and to them, Instagram is like the holy grail, right? Or like social media.
Shout out to Instagram.
Yeah, right. Exactly. For them, that's like their currency, like you said earlier, right?
Yeah.
So when they see the large following or something, there's a little bit more of a respect,
right?
Almost in a weird way.
Yeah.
So I kind of use that to my leverage and to my advantage when I'm building these relationships with these kids, and I think it'll go a long way.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
It's so common to see like videos right now where police are connecting with the community. You see police officers across the world, like, playing basketball, whatever.
Yeah.
Now
there's some good videos.
Yeah, there is some good videos. Yeah.
Or even boxing. Have you seen that one where there's a cop, he's boxing a guy in the street?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And they're all respecting that because he's playing by the rules of the street. But what I wanted to ask you was the video that you referenced, or the experience that you referenced, that really kind of got you into that molding of like, man, this is maybe what I want to do more. Where the breakdance piece.
There's a viral video.
Yeah, the viral video. Yeah, I think that's important to know, because like sometimes in life things happen and take you to an area that you can be like, man, this could be an area that I really need to stay, a calling to kind of really do some work here. That's a cool story. Why don't you share that?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, about a year into my career, I was young, brand new,
Yeah.
shiny new officer, ready to handle any call that came my way. And one night before the end of my shift, it was a day shift, I remember, and we were finishing around like 6:30ish. My car was like right around the garage where we go down to park our cruisers.
Already.
Yeah, I'm just like ready to go in, like,
Yeah.
just call it a night.
Yeah.
And then we get a call for a fight in the alleyway, 10 people beating up on one person. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Wow.
like of
Yeah.
course I'm gonna jump on.
It's like
I'm
some,
brand new.
some
Yeah.
Ninja Turtle
Yeah.
stuff right now.
I was like, yeah, I'm excited, jacked up. So the call, when it came in, there was no specific area. They just described it. The person, I guess, who called in didn't really know Oshawa very well. That's where I was working. And they could just describe kind of like buildings around it.
Yeah.
So I
Shout
had
out to
this-
the Schwa.
Yeah, shout out
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
Schwa, exactly.
Yes.
So I had this area in mind where I kind of pictured in my head like this fight could be, because 11 people, you think of an alleyway, you think narrow, small. I'm like, no way, 11 people could fit down some of these alleyways.
Yeah.
I thought of a larger area. So I went to this area that I had in my head, and not to my surprise, I saw a large group of people, but they weren't beating up each other. It was clearly evident that they were breakdancing
Right.
or they were dancing. It was like a dance
Right.
crew or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And there was about like 10 of them surrounding one guy. One guy's doing like a freeze on the ground.
Yeah.
For anyone who knows breakdancing, freeze is kind of like when you like just pose on the ground. Everyone's
Right.
seen it. Everyone knows what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously get on my cruiser to investigate. That's my job.
Yeah.
So I get out and then I approach the kids. They're very kind of standoffish at first. They're just like, they're
Right.
literally frozen. Kinda
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the effect the uniform has on people sometimes. So
Yeah, well, because you're a uniform officer
Exactly.
in an alley,
exactly.
right?
So
and maybe
probably
they're
like,
up to no good.
oh,
and you're
no,
not
it's-
you're like
yeah.
what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, 6'2", 6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a big
Yeah.
dude. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then they were kind of intimidated at first. So I could see it in their faces. And they've actually said that in interviews afterwards. But anyways, I approached them and started talking to them. I said, hey guys, were you guys fighting at all at any point or play fighting? Because they didn't seem like they were mad at each other.
yeah,
So they said, no, officer, no, we're not. Is there an issue? Like, do you want us to leave? I said, no, there's no issue here. I don't mind what you guys are doing. Like, it's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'll probably stay and watch, to
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's see what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we're just shooting a dance video for our upcoming hip hop competition.
hmm
And so in my head, I was like, oh, all right, cool. Because I used to do hip hop,
Right.
but they didn't know that at this
Right.
point. Right?
Right.
So I said, okay, what school? And they said UOIT at the time. I think it's called Ontario Tech University now, OTU, but it was called UOIT at the time,
Right.
/ Durham College.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no way. I went to Durham College as well. I was also on the hip hop dance team.
Right.
And it was pretty cool to like see, like that they're still doing that. And they're
That's
still
right.
Yeah.
having a hip hop team. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool myself.
Yeah.
And naturally, they're like,
Okay.
officer,
You can't just say
you
that.
can't just say that. You
Yeah.
have to show us some moves.
Right.
At
Yeah.
first, I was a little bit reluctant. I was
Yeah.
like, no, it's all good. And they kept pulling my arm, and I'm like, all right, fine, let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
So then
Public pressure, right?
Exactly,
It's real,
exactly. And then one of the kids, he's a freestyler.
Yeah.
And then they just threw on a song.
Yeah.
And then magic happened.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We naturally saw the dance. It was a freestyle, like it wasn't choreographed.
Yeah.
And I started doing some moves, and we kind of flowed with each other. And then I would like pass on like dance move to him, and then he'd go, and then I'd freeze, and then he'd pass it back. So it kind of looked like this organic,
Right.
almost like
Yeah.
choreographed, but
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's a
dance.
language. It's
Yeah.
a language,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, they were obviously filming,
Yes. Yeah.
and later that night, I just went home, thought nothing of it. I mean, I did my due diligence. I made sure that there was no other large groups in the area. I asked
Yeah.
them, all the other officers that were on the call, because it wasn't just me on the call.
Right.
Checked the area. No one could find a large group of people fighting. So everyone did their due diligence, and there were no other calls that came in for someone like badly injured or
Right.
something
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
we just kind of left it at that. So I went home next day, or woke up the next day, looked at my phone, and I had like a couple messages on my phone saying, "Hey, is this you in this video?" And then there was like a link to like a Facebook link.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, "Oh my God, that has like 8,000 views. That's a lot."
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
to any average person, right?
That's
Like
right.
100 views is a lot,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And then I would like wait an hour later. I'm like, yeah, text my friends, talk to them, and then I open it up again. 12,000 views.
Yeah.
Mhm.
15,000 views,
Right,
20,000 views, and I'm
right.
just like, oh my God, this is the definition of viral.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
it's a weird feeling when it's
It
happening
is.
and it's
Right,
about you.
right.
And I'm just thinking, oh my God, like this is insane.
Yeah.
And like it's so positive, and I'm just overwhelmed, I guess,
Right.
with kind of like joy,
Right.
and like I just didn't know how to feel at
Right.
the same time.
Right.
Like I'm like, oh, this is cool,
Yeah.
and
Because it represents something really cool that, like, even obviously there's some that may not like what happened, right?
Yeah.
Which we can maybe talk to. I kind of want to
Yeah.
get your thoughts on that.
yeah, of course.
But it's like a pocket of joy for, at least for the general public,
Yeah.
to see an officer kind of break form,
yeah.
even for the moment, in the context when. First off, I just have to ask you, like, so it wasn't a beatdown.
no,
Okay, so I guess to some members of the public, when one person's on the ground breakdancing, it looks like they're getting beat down, I
Yeah.
guess, right? By a
Exactly.
crowd, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It would be really cool to hear that first call if you could ever get the audio.
Yeah, the audio.
Get the
yeah,
audio.
no, I actually never. That's interesting because I've never actually
If you could
thought
get-
of like going to go
Yeah.
get that audio.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that'd be cool actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask. So what happens? Like, you have this viral video. When you look on it, again, you're new, you're shiny. Guaranteed, I'm going to make an assumption that there might be some maybe more senior officers, and we know because we've had some conversations where they've maybe not been so open
Mm-hmm.
to social media and a kind of a new way of policing in terms of integrating with the community.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Do you feel like, do you regret doing it? Is it something that you're really proud that happened? Is it something like, if there was like a naysayer cop who's like, look, man, we're cops.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
You know.
You know what? I don't regret ever doing that.
Yeah.
I'm unapologetically myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and that's how I represent myself in the uniform, because I think that goes such a long way with the community. And in order to be a successful police service, in my opinion, or police officer, you need to be able to build relationships, professional relationships. And if it means, bonding with the kids through a different way, like what's the difference between an officer playing hockey with kids and me dancing with the kids?
Right.
They have similar likes and
That's
interests.
right.
That the officer has that
Yeah.
similar
I
like.
played-
What's the
That's right.
difference?
In
Right?
high school, you play your high school team. You look forward to playing the cops.
Mhm.
All of us remember it. We
Yeah,
in high school we
exactly.
played against the cops. It's the only time you kind of rub shoulders with them.
Yeah.
They slammed on us. They talked trash with us.
Yeah.
But we had like 500 kids in the gym going crazy.
It's
It was like a
insane.
war
Yeah.
with police. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But
It
in
was
a
like-
friendly way.
Yeah, it's the best
right?
thing.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
sportsmanship like way.
Yeah.
So it was, definitely there was some blowback, but I don't regret doing it at all, because I think it kind of opened the doors. I want to think of it like as trailblazing.
Right.
Right. So it's never been done before. Well, it might have been done in the U.S., but at least I've never seen it been so overly represented over here
Yeah.
Right.
in Ontario.
I mean, that's why it caught
At
fire.
least.
That's why, people paid attention to it. So
Exactly.
give us an idea of some of the doors that it opened, because Constantine was alluding to how that was, earlier in your career, you have this experience. Did it in any way speak to kind of what you've stepped into now?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it opened up a lot of opportunities. I mean, actually, one of the biggest opportunities that almost came to fruition was I almost went on actually Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh wow.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Kid
Oh,
you
because
not.
like
Wow.
her team always finds these videos.
Yeah,
and,
Yeah.
and people were like tagging her like heavy, like tagging,
Yeah.
tagging.
Yeah. Because it's
So-
a great story. Guaranteed that's something she would spotlight.
100%.
Yeah. And it would be pretty cool if I could dance
Yeah.
beside Twitch,
Yeah,
because
of
he's like
course.
one of my
Oh,
idols.
yeah,
That'd be pretty
yeah.
cool, like
Yeah.
a hip hop
he's a
dancer,
DJ, right?
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a sick
Exactly.
dancer.
He's
Yeah.
a sick dancer.
Yeah.
He's been on several like hip hop dance music,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
music videos, movies, etc. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, that'd
Yeah.
be so cool if that could happen. But I almost went on Ellen DeGeneres. I had her team reach out to me, Steve Harvey's team, Wendy Williams' team, like a bunch
Wow.
of talk shows. Like we're reaching out to our media team, and they were giving me the green light to say, yeah, go ahead, whatever they want, go ahead and do
Yeah.
it. Because they thought it was an opportunity to show that policing on an international level,
Right.
that there are officers that do care about their communities. There are officers out there that do want to show that we are human too, we're just more than the uniform,
Of course.
which ultimately we all are. We're all humans, right? But at the end of the day, we have a job. We got to put a food on our table for our
That's right.
families. And we got to do what we got to do. But there are proper ways of doing it, and there are improper ways,
Yeah.
unfortunately, which kind of leak out. And
But I love it's in an orthodox way.
exactly.
I mean, you're not planning to get your next break-off battle in the next
No.
alley,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
like I didn't get to go on any movies or anything.
Yeah,
like you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like
You
so-
know,
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, no.
if you could pull off the worm with your duty belt, that'd be pretty
That-
impressive.
Yeah.
That's-
without breaking anything.
know.
like that, right?
Exactly.
But Jared, that speaks to your heart, man. That speaks to like your instinct is to kind of go in that direction and connect. Let's go back to the early years, okay, of growing up. Have you always had a desire of getting into police? Like, did you always have that inside you?
Yeah, I actually have an interesting story too. So I grew up in an immigrant. I'm first generation Canadian, so I grew up with an immigrant family.
Mm-hmm.
My mom came from her respective country, the Philippines, and my
Yeah.
dad came from Trinidad.
Oh, nice.
They both were born there,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
met here in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another Toronto love story.
Yeah, Toronto
Yeah.
love story,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And they faced a lot of like challenges and tribulations, right?
Mhm.
One being from a Caribbean culture, one being from an Asian culture, right? And those cultures never really mixed back then. Like you
Mhm.
would see it starting and
Yeah.
forming, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm Polish Filipino, so just to give
there
you
you
an
go.
idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
shout
Yeah.
out to the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Greek.
So yeah, so I grew up in an immigrant family, less affluent, didn't have much, parents and grandparents came over with nothing but the clothes on their back kind of story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I grew up in non-affluent areas naturally,
Yeah.
right? And growing up in those areas, you kind of learn different things, you learn the streets, like you were referring to earlier, for lack of a better term. Like you just kind of learn the culture of, all the different diversities that are surrounding you, that are coming into the country, and you all share a similar story, but but at the same time, you could be from different culture, but kind of understand
Right.
where you guys are coming
Yeah,
from.
same struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same struggle, right? You're surviving in a different together in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Together. And that's where my sense of community comes from, because I don't think I was raised, like, yes, I was raised by my family 100%, but I think I was also raised by like my neighbors, like people who were
Yeah.
in the communities that my parents associated themselves with.
Yeah.
So you kind of get this sense of community, and that it's super important to you. And that's, for me, that's where it comes from. And I grew up like that. And policing wasn't a first thought for me. Honestly, I think I was trying to get into accounting or something like that.
Yeah.
Some like boring
Yeah.
desk job for me,
Yeah.
I guess.
Hey, shout out to those
Yeah.
accountants.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
accountants.
Yeah.
No,
We all need
shout out.
them.
We need them.
We all
Yeah,
need
they're
them.
important.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, for me, it just wasn't for me. I could see myself working with people directly, day in, day out. I don't know about being behind. I mean, I've
Yeah.
slowly found out that policing is,
Another
1
day.
second of action and
Yes.
like
Yeah.
hours of reports.
That's
so,
right.
I mean,
That's right.
Don't tell
shot
anybody.
myself in the foot, I
Yeah.
guess.
Don't say that out loud for all those
Yeah.
hopefuls. Okay.
Yeah, no, but still, it's important.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
important. And there was certain life, I guess, things that happened there were certain things that happened in my life that kind of spiraled me towards policing. There was a lot of issues that happened in the household
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like domestic violence and alcohol abuse, drug abuse, stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
And I was exposed to it at a young age as well. So again, that struggle piece, that
Mhm.
piece, of like growing up and being exposed to that kind of made me grow up a lot quicker.
Okay.
And then police started being involved, right? All the community agencies like CAS, all that
Mhm.
stuff started being involved now
Mm-hmm.
in my life.
Which is
I didn't really understand what they did.
CAS is
really.
Children's Aid Society.
Children's Aid
if
Society.
anyone
Yes,
doesn't know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
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 Sorry. Children's Aid Society.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had a new profound respect for police. I was never I want to make this clear, because I was never brought up to hate police. My parents told me, police, they're there to help you, but they'll take you to jail if you're bad. Like
Right.
that's what I was brought
Yeah.
up with.
If you
right?
don't eat your veggies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
If you don't eat your veggies, you're gonna
Yeah.
go to jail.
Yeah.
But no,
Hold on, that's actually really interesting. Exposure to problems in the house, which meant police had to be around every now and then, made you respect the role of police.
because I felt safe.
Wow,
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
felt safe.
that's amazing.
And that's what put me on that trail or that track.
Yeah.
I said, and I always had to I have 2 younger siblings. I have a younger sister and a younger brother, so I'm the oldest out of 3. And I always felt like I had to protect them from things that happened around the house,
Right.
and that's kind of like what put me on that track. I always
Yeah.
felt like a protector.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that happened, but fortunate at the same time, because it's made me who I am today,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, it's my story, right?
Yeah,
It's
man.
no
Like-
better, no less than anyone else's.
No,
it's
of
just my
course.
story.
Everyone has
right?
a
Everyone
story,
has their
man. Yeah.
story.
I think that's
Everyone-
key. You said it
building
off the
them.
top. It's an experience. You don't choose your experiences; they just
Mhm.
kind of happen,
Mhm.
right? But it shaped you, and I think what's key is that you found a way to actually bring it it's brought some life for yourself as well as other people. Because you could easily right now tell us that story of what happened to you in your home is why you're criminally minded. You don't trust anybody. Anyone who comes and crosses you, they're gonna get theirs because you're gonna get yours. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I could have gone one way or the other.
It's the exact same thing,
Right.
So I think it's amazing that you found, as you know, Constantine was calling you the beacon of light off the top, right? No, but there's something about that that's amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if you, there's a lot of credit for yourself, because you could easily say the exact same narrative, but this is why, you're literally maybe a destruction to the society.
What age was that? Like when you got that light bulb?
Ironically enough, growing up, there was those school programs from the police.
That's right.
So we used to have, I believe it was called VIP, Values, Influences, and Peers.
They
used to have. I don't know if you guys remember.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the VIP program. I think there was a race against race. It's the program that teaches kids about drugs. And stuff like that. Yeah. So all that stuff started educating me, and I was seeing it at home, unfortunately. And the use of drugs were prevalent at home, and I was educated now because of them. And then that's what kind of put me on that path. And then things just naturally got worse, because when issues happen, sometimes they kind of spiral out. And then that's what kind of brought me my attention. Yeah, exactly. That's how I got. That's how I got aware of it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you said in, and again, I can only reference what I read and see in your Instagram, is that you've said references like, what does it take to be a cop or to be a police officer? And for yourself, when you got that in your heart, I need to go in this road, this direction, what did you do to prepare yourself to get there? Now, the reason why I want to focus on this question is because a lot of people aspire to be police officers, and because of that, when they say I tell this to people all the time when I meet people for the first time when they want to do interviews. They say, "What do you want to do?" "I want to be a police officer." "Do you know how you can get there?" Again, "I want to be a millionaire." "How? Show me the steps that's going to take you to become that." And I find that a lot of times people get lost and they just say they want the end goal, right? "I want to be a police officer," but everything to get there is either not looked at or they want to just skip it, right? What did you do for yourself? Because, getting into policing is not something you can just randomly just go and grab a job. It's a career that a very small percentage of the population can actually get into.
Oh, 100%.
And it's one of those things where you have to ask why. Well, because, we want the best individuals that have the best mindset and those that can demonstrate, the ability to serve and also to connect, right? So for yourself, what did you do? And you may have not, like a lot of people when they're maybe need to go to school. That's their first thing. Maybe I got to go to school for this. What did you do to kind of help yourself get into that road?
So what I did, out of high school, kind of like near the end of high school, that's when all that stuff was kind of like at its peak.
Yeah.
And it was happening earlier on in my life at home, but it peaked in like high school. And that's a time where you're kind of deciding, career path, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And at that time, I didn't have much money. I wasn't working. Even when I was in high school, I wasn't working. My parents struggled to find money just to even put food on the table sometimes, just to make ends meet, right? So I decided to take a year off and just work. So I got hired by Zellers. Shout out to Zellers. Yeah, you guys remember Zellers?
Yeah.
No, I was working in Zellers just as like a cashier floor person.
Yeah.
And I was just saving up money I remember, because it was so pivotal for me. It was like a laptop. The laptop was huge for me. Trying to get one of those.
Right.
So, and once I had a laptop, I just kind of like started searching more, because we had a computer at home, but it was a doo-doo kind of computer. Like it wasn't that good.
Right. Yeah.
So
it was a Mac. It wasn't a MacBook.
It wasn't a MacBook.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
So basically, I got that laptop and I started researching, policing and stuff and what I need to do to get into it. I didn't have any family in policing, so I had no one to talk to. So I had no connections into policing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to have to somehow connect myself to that world if I want to get in it. And at that time, I also my vision was bad. I was wearing glasses. So for those who don't know, you need close to like 20/20 vision pretty
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
to even get hired.
So you got the
Yeah.
laser.
So I had to get laser eyes. So I had to
you go.
save up for that
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then to be competitive, you needed education. So I needed to save up for school, but luckily there was OSAP.
Right.
So I had to take out loans for OSAP just to get into school. And I went to Durham College for Police Foundations. That was
Mhm.
my route that I chose.
Yes.
At the time, I don't know if it's still done, but Durham offered a program where you can do 2 years of college, get your diploma, do 2 years of criminology, and get a degree. So you kind of get two things in the
Nice.
span of 4 years,
Right.
which was pretty cool. But I didn't have the money for it. So,
Right. Right.
so I opted just to do Police Foundations.
Yes.
And I didn't want to bury myself in debt at the time. And I just kind of went with my story.
Mhm.
I used that as personal experience when I
Right.
went into the interviews and started applying. So I completed college, I graduated, created professional relationships with some of the teachers and professors there. And that really set me apart. And also I was also a part of like any extra stuff that they would throw my way. So any like community stuff, I would insert myself in. My dance thing, when I was on the hip hop team, we would sometimes go out, teach kids. We also obviously had tryouts for a hip hop team, competed. So like you're in a community, you're in
Right.
a separate community too. So like I was inserting myself wherever I could, try to be as busy as I can. I also played basketball on like 3 or 4 teams not at that time, but in the span of like high school to then. So I was also playing basketball too.
Mm-hmm.
And all these things, when I look back at it and I reflect, they compile. I didn't have a lot of time for like, for going out and stuff, and I didn't have much money to go out or anything.
Yeah.
I was just working on myself constantly, grind.
Right.
Yeah.
And it paid off in the end, in my opinion. So I graduated, got my diploma. Zellers obviously shut down,
Yeah.
and I decided to go into security.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I started working in security, and I worked for a company where I told them, I said, I want to work in a hospital or I want to work into a mall setting
Mhm.
where I'm uniform, I'm present. And I was pretty bold for someone who doesn't have any experience
Right,
in
right,
law.
right.
They're just like, I want this. But
Yeah.
I said that in my interview, and it was a bold move I was willing to take because I thought that would provide me the most reflecting experience for
Yeah.
policing.
Yeah.
to
that's
prep
right.
you.
Yeah, to prep me. So luckily enough, I was able to work in a mall,
Yeah.
and I worked in a mall setting
Okay.
for 3 years, different malls over
Right.
the span of 3 years,
Mhm.
but I worked in that setting.
Yes.
And because of security, I was able to also build skills, transferable skills that would apply to policing.
Dealing with the public.
Dealing with the
situations,
public,
that's right.
conflict management,
Right.
you talk
Mhm.
about all those things. And,
Yeah.
it's putting all that education into reality, into effect.
Yeah.
Directing mall
Exact-
traffic.
Exactly.
Parking lot traffic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't park there.
Yeah.
No.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and that gave me all the experience I needed to be competitive, along with my personal experience at home. And when I went and applied, I applied at the age of 20. I'm 31 now, so
Okay.
20. I applied at first time 22. I applied to York. I got through to the questionnaire interview phase, or pre background questionnaire phase, and turned me down. Was too young, didn't have enough experience. I don't think at that time I was in security. I was still like Zellers.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And then after that, I applied to Peel,
Yeah.
got turned down. They just said, need more experience. I was like 23, 24. And then Durham, I also applied. I was living in Durham at the time,
Mhm.
and they were my top choice because I was living there. And I was
Mhm.
thinking like financially commuting and stuff too as well. And
Yeah.
it's the community that I grew up in, so I would be able better to serve it.
That's right. You have
Right,
an
'cause
instant connection.
Instant
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
So, when they sent me that interview and I started going through the processes of it, at the time I know it's changed
Yeah.
ever since from when I got hired.
Right.
It's changed. And I was going through it, and in the interviews I remember talking a lot about my experiences at home, also my experiences on the job, and kind of meshing it all together to create kind of like this holistic picture of like who I am. This is who you're hiring. And at that time, there was an emphasis on degrees, like university degrees, but I felt confident in speaking about my experiences personally and sharing that with them and saying, this is who I am. I'm not like that. I want my past to change, and I want my future to be different than what my family has had.
Well,
Go on.
I mean, first of all, kudos to Durham for hiring you. Okay, and the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of times people's experiences are almost they don't want to share them because they think someone's going to look at me in a certain way. I came from this. Do you still have that? Are you going to be displaying that? So, I mean, kudos to them for being able to kind of see through you and see your story and say, man, what you have is literally is something that we need to have come on, be part of the force to be able to connect with the community. So that's amazing. I think also a lot of people that hear your story, okay, in general, look, in my household, my wife is from the Caribbean, okay, so my kids are mixed, and I've shared this before that based on a lot of things that happen around the world, maybe in our household the police are not looked at in the brightest light. Okay, so when my son has any interest of policing, it's like, no, I don't know if I want you to do that because of what you're kind of walking into. But I think the more people hear stories like yours, okay, and how you are and how you connect, it's inspiring for others to be like, man, I want to be like Jarrod. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
It's a good example.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a
Thank
good
you.
example.
Yeah.
It's an inspiring, and this is really why we also want to really highlight a lot of law enforcement, is because there's an incredible amount of amazing police officers. I mean, if there's any bad apples, they're probably the very, very, very small
few.
minority.
Very few.
But the small minority, as we tend to know, usually has a loud voice, and
The squeaky wheel gets the grease,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
it gets the attention.
yeah.
right?
So kudos to what you're doing, man. And I mean, I generally, legitimately am grateful for what you're doing, and the fact that you're able to have that connection. So thank you for sharing that piece, man. I mean,
No.
that's awesome. Mike,
Yeah,
what were you gonna say?
I was just, kind of going back to your story, what you'd said earlier, that for you, your interaction with police made you feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's huge to kind of spotlight, because
Yeah.
you can feel safe knowing that police are there. Because it could have been the reverse. If you had a cop who's not a good officer, who came in and man, your problem's my problem now, and didn't have the patience and didn't know how to identify that there's three kids in the wings of everything going on, you might have a whole other mentality towards cops. Easily, 100%. I know full families that will never trust police because of raids. The neighborhood, which wasn't an affluent neighborhood, they grew up, there was some stuff that would happen in that neighborhood, and the whole neighborhood was literally policed with an iron fist with raids. You get that Toronto Star article that says, yeah, we arrested 100 people and recovered this many guns and whatever. But man, like the collateral damage of what you did to every kid and mother and just younger, it's crazy. No one documented that. No one cared, because they just blew in and blew out, and they could get a good headline. Okay.
100%.
So I think what's amazing is, first off, that, those officers that were there to make you feel safe, that's huge.
Oh,
okay.
100%.
Because that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Secondly, it sounded like you were really driven, and you knew what you were about. And I think that's key, because, when Constantine says that, we come across people who want to be cops, there's maybe dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews that happen every month here. Okay. And that's kind of what they lead with. The large majority say to Constantine directly to his face, I want to be a cop. So he has all these conversations with people, and right away, he kind of knows now. You've done it so many times.
Yeah.
In one way, you kind of could say, almost inherently,
Yeah.
you're going to be wrong sometimes,
Right,
but you're going to
right.
be right a lot of the
Very
time.
rarely. Very rarely.
You know what it takes, though. No, but you would know what it takes just
Yeah,
on how they
confidence.
conduct themselves,
Right, right.
how driven they are. Do they know themselves? Do they know what they bring? So you didn't have that 4-year degree, or that that pocket of several degrees. You had life experience. You knew how to communicate it. You knew what it meant to you and how you're going to use it. And that's huge. So I think you being essentially kind of in tune with yourself and what you've been through, it seems like it's carrying you now. Right? 100%. But it is why you got to where you got. Right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't regret it at all. I mean, everyone has a story, right? And I get a lot of people messaging me on Instagram, what do I do to become a police officer? How do I become a police officer?
Yeah, that's
right?
the question.
And I'm like, man, I have to tell a story all the time.
There's no-
Twitter
just
fingers.
Give him the soundbite now. Just give him the soundbite now.
Exactly.
Yeah, you link them to this. Just say,
Yeah.
hey, check this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do now.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey,
Yeah.
look at this video.
Right.
I explain it
Right.
here, what my life experience was and how it's molded me into what I am today. And I think it's super important to be able to be that confident in yourself. Confidence is key in my opinion, but confidence is also key as a police officer.
Right.
Right? Not cocky, not overconfident, just confident. right? Be humble about it. Talk about your story. I share this story because I hope people hear it and what you guys were talking about. They go, oh, I do have trouble at home, or I have some things going on at home. Will it affect my opportunity to become a police officer? Not necessarily. You have to articulate that. You are the author of your own story. You have to go into that room and convince those people that are on the other side of the table that, you know what, I can be your partner. I will have your back. I am a sound mind individual of a sound mind, and I will be a protector, so to speak, right? So you have to convince those people as well.
Yeah.
So there's different angles to it.
And you're showing mentorship to that all the time. There's actually a photo as well. I mean, by the way, what's your handles for Instagram? Just because again, that's a
it's my name. So JARRODS 33, Jarrod's 33.
Okay, that's what I followed. And there's this one picture that I saw, and it's a picture of you and this. It looks like I don't know. I'm gonna say skinny black guy. In one side of the photo, and you're saying that you kind of like he was looking for some like you kind of mentored this guy, and right now he's
Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant.
No, yeah. And now I see this this like big masculine guy right now in uniform.
He's big.
Yeah, he's a cop now. Yeah, you told me about this.
He's the cop, and I saw that, and
he's actually cadet.
Yeah.
But I strongly feel that he will be in that constable role in the next year or two.
But you were showing through there that that there was some mentorship that was applied there, and he put that into practice, and he got him to where he is right now, and he's still getting closer to his goals.
You know what? It's funny because I feel like people are so like they don't want to reach out to police because we're seen as unapproachable sometimes to some people depending on backgrounds and stuff and experiences. But this individual, his name's Dom. I don't mind sharing his name because he's a good kid.
Yeah.
He was a good kid. He reached out to me. He was very, very stuck on becoming a police officer. And I get to know these people before I share, more insightful tips on, what I did to become a police officer. And I want to say that there is no cookie cutter way of becoming a police officer because police services now are hiring all sorts of people from different backgrounds, different professions, different religions. Mm-hmm. And I think it's super important because the police service needs to reflect the community.
It's ever changing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he reached out to me and he was like saying, what's up? And how do I do this? How do I do that? And I went in depth with him, my story, kind of like how he's told you guys. Mm-hmm. And I guess he found that empowering. I don't know if he had any issues at home or anything. He didn't really share anything, which is fine, but it stuck with him. Whatever I said stuck with him, and he was able to follow that path, and he is where he is today. I'm pretty sure he's a cadet over with Peel.
Yeah.
And sadly not Durham.
Yeah,
I wish he was Durham, but no. In the grand scheme of things, policing I think needs better characters, better people of more like moral judgment. They need better moral judgment, and I could sense it in him. In speaking with him. So shout out to him for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good, man. And look, to me, like this is like again a reoccurring trend. So if anyone does follow Jarrod's Instagram as an example, you will see this as a reoccurring theme. For yourself, I know one of the things that you love to do is like connect with the community, connect with young people. Okay, when you look at that, where do you want to see, like, if it was from your perspective, if you right now have the mantle of chief of police, okay, and you have the opportunity to kind of mold something, where would you like to see policing and the communities in the next, 10 years?
Like, what does it look like?
What does it look like?
For me, you know what? I never take away from the importance of the actual critical role of a police officer is to enforce.
Right.
I think there is a place for that, 100%. Enforcement is what we do. We protect and serve, right? But the part that we always forget is the serve part. Protect is like, the macho kind of like cool role that everyone wants to get into. I strongly have a great gratitude for those people that go into that role because I think for a police service to be a successful police service is to have individuals who excel in their, niches, so to speak, and have them in those roles because that's where you're going to excel. Mm-hmm. You have people who are passionate about those things. And then because of that passion and that drive, they're going to produce. Yeah. They're going to produce naturally.
Right.
So in 10 years, I hope there's a little bit more emphasis on community policing and there are more people who are fit for those roles. Not to say that everyone's not fit for those roles, just in my mind, that picture looks like people who are a bit more passionate about, not to say that officers aren't passionate,
But the right
about
people.
but the right people, because
Yeah.
like it takes a certain type of person to be able to deal with youth and to like jive with them and to like mix with them and to, you know, kind of get into their mindset and understand them better,
Right.
especially if you some of them are growing up in non-affluent areas. Like I can relate to that
Right.
with some of these kids, right? So when I share my story, they kind of find that similarity and they latch onto it.
Yeah, I mean, there's
And
not
then-
just youth to integrate with. There's so many different other types of people, demographics within communities.
Oh, 100%.
Right, so it's like, yeah, that officer is like, oh, man, kids smell, don't like them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have them, never going to have them.
Yeah.
So, you know, it'd be unnatural for that person to embrace the children of the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they work with seniors
Yeah.
or something. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone who is passionate about those niches and groups.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important. So 10 years, just having people who are, you know, passionate about those things in those roles, and there's more of an emphasis on it. I mean, you know, community policing right now, it's slowly on the climb. It's way better than it was like, you know, 5-6 years ago, but there's more of an importance being placed on it because of all the social injustices and stuff that are coming out and, you know, that are being presented to us. So it's not like these things have never been a problem. It's just now it's being brought to light.
Yeah.
And we're reacting. I think it's better to be proactive than reactive, but that's where we are right now.
Okay.
So
Good, man.
it's good to, you know, have people in those roles that recognize those things and
Listen,
that are able to
100%.
communicate that.
And it's needed. Let's go back to the school piece right now. So I know you oversee, I think you said 23 schools.
Yeah.
How would you say the culture of school is right now? Meaning as in like, you know, we can say there's always been fights in school. There's always been obviously like, you know, the riff-raff behaviors, you know, all that. It's always happened. How do you find it like now, society is right now with kids in school? There's obviously it's evolved. I mean, you know, newest things that we talked about are like, you know, technology, but
Social media.
from a challenge perspective, is it more challenging with today's youth in schooling than it was maybe back in our days? You know what I mean?
Or maybe what are the challenges?
Yeah.
now?
Right. That's maybe a better question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
What are the challenges like in schooling right now? You know, is it harder to connect? You know, with youth.
Yeah, I would say it's harder to connect in the sense that because media is so prevalent now, everyone has information at the touch of their fingers, right? And unfortunately, all the stuff that's been happening in the recent past with police being brought into a negative light has really, I think, molded a lot of minds of the youth, and that's kind of all they see. They don't have a positive,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
a positive reinforcement to fall back on to
That's
say, yeah, you know, police officers actually are good. So I do find that challenging when I'm trying to talk to kids, because I know when I walk through the school in uniform, you
You can feel the eyes piercing on you.
you feel it. You
Yeah.
just see them all not looking or looking.
Right.
It's because the highlight reel of police in social media is not good.
No, it's not.
Right?
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So it is challenging. It definitely is, and that's a fight I'm willing to fight.
Yeah. You got to
and that's just by being myself,
Yeah,
just by being, you know.
You got to
You know-
break that barrier first.
Exactly, break that barrier.
I think you got to shift your chair this way just
Oh.
for some camera.
Yeah,
Whatever.
no,
That's
sorry.
all. Yeah, it's all good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
The room is a little slanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and to me that can be challenging, especially like when you can't even get to the first step of doing your job because there's a wall that you have to break down first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
It's
sometimes you don't even have the luxury or the time to break down that wall.
Hey man, we're all it's going to a new school. You walk. It's just the dynamic of high school. You go into a school. You got to
feels like
earn
that.
respect, right? You got to build some relationships.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, man.
I actually have the funny opportunity of going back to my own high school and being the school liaison officer there, which is
Right.
kind of funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like life comes back in its full
Yeah, of
circle.
course.
Like, it's hilarious, but also kind of it makes me reflect.
Yeah.
You know what I was like at
No,
high school at
good
the
luck.
time when I'm in.
Does it really make an impact, Jarrod? You know, you go in uniform. You're just doing. I'm being facetious right now. Okay. you know, it's just you're just obligated because you're a cop. You guys do your time. You go into a school. You shake some hands, take some photos. Kids are going to be kids. The
Yeah.
criminal-minded are going to be criminal-minded. Do you really think it makes a difference?
Yeah, I honestly do.
Yeah,
I honestly do.
Yeah.
I'll say that 10 times over and over.
Yeah.
I don't think it might make a difference on a larger scale, but if I could change that one kid's mind, then I've done my job,
Yeah.
really. because that one kid who maybe was criminal minded might be like in their future could have affected lots of families, and a lot of tragedies could have happened from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is very
So
true.
if you look at it in a bigger picture, if it's just one,
That's right.
I think I've done my job. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just it's tough these days. You know, breaking that barrier. And
Yeah.
it's tough trying to, you know, get into their minds. But because of my, I guess, street sense and my ability to, I guess,
relate to them.
the kids,
Yeah.
to relate to them and, you know, speak to them in that kind of like Toronto accent is what
Yes.
people call it,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Yes.
The
The
it's a
Toronto
very
Mans.
distinct, yeah, Toronto
Right,
Mans. It's
right.
very distinct.
That's
and,
right.
And then I when I come out with that, it instantly breaks that barrier sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's wearing a uniform. I'm confused.
That's
Like,
right.
What is he doing?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, some
Part of
might
it-
see it as unprofessional, but I think
No, it's good. It's good to break the
it's good to
mold.
break it, yeah.
If you have confidence and you're doing it in the best heart, it's okay to break the mold.
Mhm.
You know, all the
Agree.
traditionalists out there, like it's gonna be okay.
exactly.
You know, I mean, look at any industry, any great movie. There's the old, you know.
Loosen that tie, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard one.
exactly.
I heard one guy say before, like, "Oh, it doesn't matter what it is. Those with the double chins,
Yeah.
the old stock, they have issues with everything."
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, loosen the tie a bit. There's going to be a new way, right? I think it's, you know, this is the truth. I can tell you from my own experience. The criminally minded individual or kid could be an incredible police officer.
Mm-hmm.
That there's just something about that, you know, that could be another podcast. You
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
Who
No,
knows?
No,
Yeah.
but the kid who's wired to kind of see things in that way and will know how to police against it.
Mm-hmm.
And will know the challenges and not just see it as simple black and white.
Mm-hmm.
They'll understand, okay, I get this dynamic and why this kid thought that he needed to do this, or why this, you know, and we keep saying kids, but you're policing adults as well.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And like when you look at it that way, like our job is go in there, get the bad guy, and pull him out. But we often forget about the aftermath that happens. Like, but I've been through it, right? Like the court procedures, you know, a parent going to jail, going to visit your parent in jail. Like I've had to do all that. Like, you know, in the movies, you have that phone on one side,
Yeah.
you got the glass,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
big plexiglass in between you, and you're talking, you know, to your family member, whoever it is on the other side in that orange jumpsuit.
Yes.
It was a reality for me.
Yeah.
And it really struck a chord, you know, when I saw that, and I was like, man, I don't want to be that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's crazy, you know, living it, and, you know, being able to relate to some kids who maybe have actually lived it, and that might change. They'd be like, cause when you see that and you think about that, you go, oh I could never do this profession because of my ties. And I always tell people, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. Right.
Yeah.
And you know what the key thing that you're doing is there's people at a very young age that you're kind of indirectly mentoring or directly mentoring when you're going to these schools, that what's so critical, so important about why this is needed. And I understand that because of funding, things can get lifted, but this is why I think it's so needed. I mean, at the end of the day, we look at our society right now, in our age group, we're going to eventually get to an age, retirement, the next generation's coming up.
The good years.
Yes.
The golden
Yeah.
The golden years.
Yeah, the next, and there's a long way away. We're a
Yes.
long way away. But the next generation
Pedicure.
of kids, the next generation of kids right now, for them to hear and see a living example at this present age is enough that you could make an impression in their life and say, you know what, I want to do that, to kind of go down that road and spend the next little bit of time doing that. Because here's the reality. If that maybe doesn't happen, and that kid does go down that road and potentially gets charged and arrested, now the likeliness of him potentially getting into policing is starting to get thinner now, because now he's kind of building that, you know, that little history. Just like I tell people that we employ here, you know, when you're coming in here at the age early 20s, mid 20s and older, if at this present age right now you're creating these big barricades or obstacles of maybe like, you know, you have a problem with punctuality, you have a problem with like your distraction, or you can't do your job effectively, how can you think that you're going to maybe have a career in policing if you can't do well with the little? You know what I mean? And if you go back to school, right, it's so critical right now that, you know, as parents and as teachers and police officers, that we're pouring into the youth, so we're giving them the best opportunity for when they get older. Do you have any message for maybe parents that what they can do in their kids' lives or be part of something to help them get there? Because I mean, you know, as much as we say, well, what do you mean? What kind of message are you exactly going to tell them? Like a lot of times, maybe parents don't feel that they need to connect with like something as small as what you're going to do in school. but you are kind of setting a little bit of the groundwork for them to best navigate through those environments, because the school culture is changing. I mean, it is changing, right? And bullying is different what it was maybe back in our age. Bullying now is a lot more cyber now than,
100%.
And that is bringing different outcomes. So do you have any advice for like maybe like parents or family supports that, that they can help?
Yeah, just try and be as present as you can. And I know it can be difficult. And be present, when I say that, is be present in your kid's life. Is just be very aware of what they're doing. I know technology can sometimes be a barrier between generations.
Yes.
And I find that to be the most commonality of like where issues are stemming from, at least in my experiences. Parents don't know what's going on in their kids' like Instagram DM boxes or messages and stuff. But I know some parents that have a really good control of that. Like they have rules like you can't. I have to be able to see your messages and all that stuff. And some parents might even, who are more tech savvy, can put like time restraints on certain apps and stuff. So I think that's super important, being present, because it's easier said than done. Because I understand, mom, if dad's not in the picture or mom's not in the picture, that one parent's going to always be working, trying to grind for their kid. And that's not always the case. But try the best that you can to be present, so that you can provide the proper advice for your kid and proper, avenues. And if you don't know what that looks like, then seek it somehow.
That's good.
Seek it somehow. Like,
Yeah.
Information is at our fingertips.
That's
like
right.
I always
No,
tell
I
the kids
know.
this. We have so much information now these days. You can just whip out your phone and just
Learn
type in
about
anything. And learn about anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of school? Like, you know what I
that's
mean?
good.
So
man.
it's
Like-
key. Like, so be present. But what you were saying there about with the apps and just that's basically have a pulse. Have a
Yeah.
pulse on what's going on with your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's good.
Right.
That's good
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
man. As we wrap up, I mean, again, a lot of people have aspirations for policing and all that. What would you say is the number one thing in your experience from what you've seen where people struggle with not getting on to the police or like what is their obstacle? Because sometimes, look, I can see people's obstacles all the time, and just through conversation. But if you were going to give advice to someone, and because it's the number one thing that you're seeing as a regular trend, what would that be? To say, try to avoid doing this, it'll help you get there. And I mean, it could be anything from physical to mindset to whatever. But in your experiences, what would you say is that number one obstacle from people getting closer to their goals in policing, or anything in general?
Confidence.
Okay.
For me, that's easy for me. It's confidence. When I talk to kids or I talk to youth or young adults, sometimes you just notice that their speaking skills aren't where I think they should be, at least.
Right.
They need to work on that. So try to gain more confidence, talk to people more, try to foster like communication between people.
Right.
Yeah.
Always carry a conversation. I think that's super important, because
That's
that's what that job, this job, policing, you're always talking to people and you're always conflict managing and you're always trying to smooth things out. That's the job. It's a lot
it's a
of
very
talking.
challenging
A
job.
lot of
Yes.
talking. It's
Yes.
not like the movies where you're always action, drive fast, whip out your gun.
Right.
No, it's not like that.
Right.
Definitely not like that.
Right.
All the stuff you see on social media, that happens rarely.
Yeah.
Some officers go through their whole careers without, shooting someone or doing something like
Yeah,
that. Something
absolutely.
crazy or egregious like that.
Yeah.
So, I think it's super important to have that confidence and ability to talk to people. That is super important. And I always tell kids or young adults, work on your interviewing skills. Know how to sell yourself. Articulate. Articulation is key, in my opinion, how you articulate things. Because if you're able, and I always, what was the saying? It went something like, if you believe the story that you're telling, they will believe the story that you're
That's
telling.
good.
Right.
Right. And for me, that was confidence. I understand that to be, just be confident in
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just, obviously have some facts behind it. Don't just,
Yeah, of course.
throw out stuff willy nilly, but
yeah.
be confident when you're talking. And I think it's super important.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really good. And I think it's needed, right? Because a lot of times, you could be going down this road of like, how do I navigate? How do I get there? What can I do? And for us, we always want to make sure that people are empowered and they're well equipped so they can be able to like listen to stuff like this and be like, man, that's all I got to do. Now I just got to put the work in. You know what I mean? That's all it really comes down to.
Yeah. For me, it was hip hop dancing. I never had confidence. I remember being like 10 years old. My dad's like, I'm going to put you in basketball on a basketball team. And I started crying. I remember it.
Yeah.
I cried because I didn't want people watching me and judging me. Ironically enough, I'm in a job where people watch and judge you all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I remember crying. I broke down because I was just so afraid of judgment.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when I was growing up, I started inserting myself in different groups like basketball teams and involving myself. And I think those areas of my life fostered that confidence. It built me up. And the dancing piece really took me into a whole new world of like just being confident in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because dancing is just like, I tell people for dancing, off topic, not policing, but like,
Yeah.
if you don't know how to dance, just feel it, just dance, and look like you're enjoying yourself.
That's right.
Because that's what it's all about
right.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you have a rhythm, you can dance.
That's right.
Everyone has a rhythm. It's
They
called a
do.
heartbeat.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
Exactly.
So I like
there's-
that. That's
when,
good.
It's funny when you're saying that because some people that can't dance but try to dance. Like there's an episode of Seinfeld with Elaine is doing
Yeah.
that weird funky dance.
That's a wicked
yeah,
dance.
yeah.
But she's having a good time.
She's having a good time.
She's having a
She's
good
having
time.
a good time. That's all that
exactly.
matters.
And
There's a
any-
saying, dance like no one's watching.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any professional dancer or someone would appreciate that.
Right.
Right. And people who don't dance would be like, oh, like I can't dance.
Yeah.
So what,
but like that-
what you're saying, find the thing that you can enjoy.
Exactly.
Enjoy it, be present, work on yourself, invest in yourself, so that from that area, whether you're not good at articulation, but you're good at maybe documentation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Work on that ability to articulate, or
Yeah.
vice versa. For
Right.
other things, the number one thing you can say that, where when people come into our company to get a job here,
Yeah.
when they're overconfident
Yes.
and they're not accurately gauging where their starting point is, know
Right.
that they're not going to hit their goal.
No, 100%.
Right?
I hate to say that. Like, I mean, it's the truth, but I hate to be like, when somebody walks in, like we hired a person a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to say his name, but this guy 100% is going to be a cop. Like everything about him in his interview, everything that he said, everything about him, I would just call it the X factor. He had that about him. And to me, but I've seen on the other side now.
Is it really an X factor if everything lines up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
true, but
he's
it's true.
checking all the boxes.
He's checking all the boxes. But then we've had the other side of the coin where, people say, again, I want to do this. But when you start kind of going a little bit deep, you can clearly see they don't want to put the work in at all. They don't want to put the work in. Exactly. They just want to hand it to them. And 100%. So the two things we say in the company is you must possess, again, we could care less about your experience. That's what we say. But we want to see you demonstrate humility. And we want to see how you can demonstrate work ethic and what you've done so far, or doing it further with us. Because that's what we really care about. It's just those two things. And we tell people, this is not just something that we're looking for that you can say, man, I have this to do security or policing or law enforcement. But this could be relationships. This could be so much things in your life that can help you just having those two things. I mean, the opposite of humility is ego. Right. And then again, I know it all. I know it. What do you mean you teach me how to do this? I already know how to use this or whatever. But I'm glad that you said that. Confidence is a huge piece. And I guess maybe the only trick with confidence is to make sure you don't go overly confident. You know what I mean?
Always a trick.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
always a trick.
There's a fine line with it, right?
Yeah. That's good, man.
Yeah.
Jarrod, look, thank you so much, man, for coming down on the show today. What I would love to do, and I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there because it kind of like puts us on the table.
And puts pressure on Jarrod right now too. Right?
The next
used to
school,
pressure.
the next school that you go and do a presentation at,
Yeah.
if it's available, I'd love for us to be able to, bring our production team and kind of capture you, doing this, because I think just a lot of times it's good for people to see as well the element, right, of what happens and how the youth respond. And how you can just see it in their eyes and everything about them. If you're open to that, if it would be available with the schooling and stuff, we'd love to be part of that, man.
Yeah, as long as everything checks out.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I don't see an issue with that personally, but definitely if everything checks out, because there's obviously policies and stuff. Schools and
but even like you talked about ball and all that. I mean, we have access to obviously, quite a bit of resources with what we do. But if there was an opportunity where we could do something, if you wanted to do something with the community, I mean, is in an association. I mean, we have contacts in Durham and stuff as well.
100%.
I'd love to do that. I mean, a good friend of both of ours, Dale Swift.
Dale Swift.
I know he's another one that is right in the.
He's in my
community.
wedding party. The guy. Shout out
Is
to
he?
him. Yeah, he's one of my groomsmen. He's a really, really
he
good
can dance
guy.
too. I know he can dance.
He can dance. He has a little bit of a broke up knee, but
He
it's all
uses
good.
it.
I'll
He
forgive
uses
him.
it.
Yeah, he uses it. Exactly.
But yeah, man, he talked about doing stuff. So we want to be part of that. We want to be part of the solution and the contribution. So if there's something that even if you're thinking of, man, we'd love to be part and join forces on that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see an issue with that at all. I
Awesome.
love that.
Okay.
This type of message and this type of stuff needs to get out there.
Yeah, we want to capture and kind of share it. So the spotlight to maybe balance out the meter a bit. All that negativity, to those that work in policing, that we can say, okay, look, yes, you might get those bad apples, but look at the batch.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Exactly.
batch.
Yeah,
Look at all the,
exactly,
look at all the
right?
good
Yeah.
things that
All the good things that come
yeah.
out of
There
it.
you
Yeah.
go. Well, thank you very much for coming down. Constable Jarrod Singh, find him in your local Durham region and changing lives. And thank you so much for coming down, bro. I really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to people listening to this and I guess inspiring change.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right,
Appreciate it.
awesome.
Thank you for
Amazing.
having me.
Zellers, rest in peace.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers to those.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Take care.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.